Everybody talks about how corporate media is failing us, but hardly anyone talks about why. In this video, I'm breaking down the Republican plan to take over the country through media. We're diving deep to uncover what they've already pulled off and what's coming next, so we can be ready to push back. But hey, you know the drill. Since you're already here, make sure you like, subscribe, share, and hit that bell so you'll be the first to know when we post. Because as you will learn today, independent media is more important now than ever before. This is Pragmotiv News, and I'm Trey. So this video is probably going to be a little longer than usual, but I promise you, you'll be smarter at the end. So pause right now and go get you a snack and come back. All right. Now, before we get into it, Cameron and I just want to say thank you for all the support. This past week was insane. Seeing the views and subs go up and up and up has been unreal. Now, don't get me wrong. We were going to keep making content no matter what, whether it was 10 people watching or 10 million. But y'all's support gives us the extra push to keep on grinding. So seriously, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And hey, if you're watching right now and you still haven't shared the channel with your family or your friends, come on, what you waiting for? Let's keep this momentum going so we can keep making stuff like this for you. So like, comment, and subscribe because why not? It's free. So now let's jump in. I'm sure y'all probably have heard of a company called Procter Gamble, aka P&G. I bet you even have some of their products in your house right now. Take a look at some of P&G's most notable brands. These include Pampers, Love's Diapers, Tide Detergent, Downy, Gain, Cascade, Dawn Dish Liquid, Always, Tampax, Pantene, Bounty Paper Towels, Bounce, Dreft Baby Detergent, Braun, Gillette, Head and Shoulders, Charmin Toilet Paper, Mr. Clean, Puffs Tissues, Crest Toothpaste, Febreze, Metamucil, Pepto-Bismol, Vicks Vapor Rub, Prilosec, Secret, Z-Quil, Clear Blue, Zevo, Old Spice. Yes, they do own Gillette and Old Spice. Swiffer, Oral-B, Scope, Ivory Soap, Safeguard, and Olay. And again, this is just their most notable brands. So P&G is just one example, and I think it's a good one. It shows how we use different brands every day without even realizing they're all owned by the same company. I mean, how many people have said, I'm sick or tired, I'm switching to Gain, only to realize their money is still going into the same pot? Now, don't get me wrong. P&G is one of the good ones. Despite valid concerns over their environmental practices, their reputation with diversity in the workplace has been stellar from what I read. And they should stand as a corporate example for others. But the point of this video is not to discuss whether or not companies should be allowed to own this much of the market share. It's to talk about the consolidation happening in the media right now. But us consumers should really realize that most of the products and services that we support are owned by just a few companies. So, I mean, Unilever is another example. They own Ben & Jerry's ice cream, Axe body wash, Dove soap, and Hellmann's mayonnaise. Now, what a combination. So we could spend all day looking these things up, which honestly, I live for just because I like knowing things. But let's go ahead on and move on. So now let's take a trip back in time to 1890. In that year, the Sherman Antitrust Act was passed, which was the first major piece of antitrust legislation in the United States. It broadly outlawed combinations that restrained trade or created monopolies. Then in 1914, the Clayton Antitrust Act strengthened the Sherman Act by explicitly banning specific practices such as anti-competitive mergers. Enforcement was particularly robust in the mid-20th century, leading to antitrust actions by the government that included breaking up major corporations like P&G. The FTC at the time challenged P&G's acquisition of Clorox in the 1960s, leading to P&G having to divest itself of the bleach brand. To this day, Clorox is still an independent company. However, P&G competes with them within certain industries like the all-purpose home cleaner brands, Mr. Clean and Swiffer. Now, let's skip to the 1970s. That's when things started to shift. A major change in antitrust enforcement came with the, quote, Chicago School of Economic Thought, which is a philosophy that argues that corporate consolidation is efficient and beneficial to consumers unless it directly leads to higher prices. This approach focused less on the size of a corporation and more on whether or not its practices demonstrably harmed consumer welfare. This change also directly resulted in the modern-day acquisitions like Comcast buying NBC Universal or AT&T's purchase of Time Warner, of which I will note they no longer own. Now, that we've gone through the history of how all of this was possible, let's dive into the current media landscape of the United States. Let's start with Comcast, since we just mentioned it. Comcast acquired 51% of NBC Universal back in 2011, and then acquired the remaining 49% in 2013. Now, mind you, Comcast was already the number one cable provider in the United States. So now the company owns the content and the distribution platform. The networks and brands that the new company now owns is Xfinity Cable and Internet, NBC Universal, which includes NBC Network, Peacock, the streaming service, Peacock, NBC News, E! Network, USA Network, Bravo, CNBC, MSNBC, Sci-Fi, Sports Engine, Telemundo, Oxygen. They also own Fandango, Rotten Tomatoes, DreamWorks Studio, Universal Studio, and Illumination, as well as Sky Network in London. In addition to all of that, they own about a dozen local networks in select markets across the country, including New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Dallas-Fort Worth, Boston, Miami, San Diego, and Hartford, Connecticut. Now, right now, Comcast is spinning off a bunch of their underperforming assets, though, of course, they never call them that. You'd never hear them call them underperforming. But why do I call them underperforming? Well, we've all seen how much cord cutting has been happening over the years. And once those eyeballs disappear, so does those advertiser dollars. So without them ad dollars, there's no money to run the networks, cover payroll, or produce shows. So the new spinoff entity is called Versant, and it will include the USA Network, MSNBC, which will now be known for some reason as MS Now, or Ms. Now, as the great Joy Reid now calls them. The other brands will include Oxygen, E!, Sci-Fi, and the Golf Channel. Fandango and Rotten Tomatoes will also be a part of the new publicly traded company's portfolio. So do y'all notice what's missing? The streaming service Peacock, the movie studios, basically the moneymakers. So logically thinking, what do we think will happen to the new company without the more profitable brands to prop up the failing ones? It probably will eventually fail. Now, we have seen Comcast capitulate to the Trump administration multiple times since he has taken office again this past January. With the firing of Joy Reid and the firing of Matt Dowd, and the obvious jog to the right in their reporting, just to name a few. So now let's get into Disney. We all know the Walt Disney Company has a long, prestigious history in the United States that includes Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. What a lot of us may not know is that Disney acquired ABC and ESPN back in 1996, transforming the company into a media conglomerate. Disney also recently wrestled away control of Hulu from Comcast just a few months ago in June 2025, now adding 100% ownership of the streaming platform to its portfolio. Hulu was started as a joint venture between NBC Universal and Fox, with Disney joining as a partner a year later. Disney has been slowly gaining control of the platform for years now, with another pivotal moment being when they bought 21st Century Fox back in 2019. So now let's take a look at Disney's portfolio. Disney owns ABC, Hulu, ESPN, FX, National Geographic, Disney Plus, of course, Disney Channel, Freeform, Marvel, Pixar, Lucasfilm, Walt Disney Studios, 20th Century Studios, which was formerly 20th Century Fox, and Searchlight Pictures, which was formerly Fox Searchlight Pictures, and the Muppet Studio. Of course, they also own and operate the Disney theme parks and resorts and Disney Music Group. Now, since we're talking about Fox, let's see where they stand. The Fox Corporation owns the Fox Broadcast Network, Fox News, aka Faux News, Fox Sports, and get this one surprised me, y'all, Tubi. They also own and operate about 29 local stations across the country. Now, in an effort to not make this video too long, I won't read all of those stations, but you can find them if you want to know which ones they are. I'll post them on our Substack, and you can find that at pragmotivplus.com. So if you haven't subscribed, head on over there and subscribe to our email list. You could do that for free, and there's also an option to support us monthly if you choose to. Now moving on to CBS. CBS has what I think to be the most interesting history out of all of them. CBS Broadcasting Inc., originally the Columbia Broadcasting System, was founded as one of the big three television networks in the United States, the big three being CBS, NBC, and ABC. Now, CBS has a long history of an on-again and off-again relationship with Paramount, with Paramount at one time acquiring it and then at another time selling its shares back to CBS. But again, in an effort for this not to be too long, let's skip ahead to 1970, when CBS Enterprises is renamed Viacom. Then Viacom is acquired by National Amusements, which was founded by Michael Redstone, later run by his son Sumner Redstone, and then his daughter Sherry Redstone, who just sold the entire company to Oracle founder Larry Ellison's son, David Ellison's Skydance Media. It should be noted that Larry Ellison is a Republican and Trump supporter. However, his son is reported to have donated to Democratic causes in the past. But the writing on the wall over at CBS isn't looking good, with them appointing a new ombudsman who is a MAGA person, by the way. To quote, he's supposed to be over there checking their bias. And the recent cancellation of Stephen Colbert, the capitulation of settling the 60 Minutes lawsuit with Trump, it's all seeming very suspicious. But let's back up and talk about Viacom. Viacom was a cable TV pioneer, owning classic cable brands like MTV, VH1, Nickelodeon, and BET. So here is the new company, Paramount Global, a Skydance company, portfolio. Now that's a title. So Paramount owns CBS, CBS News, international brand 5, BET, CBS Sports, Chile Vision, CMT, Colors, Comedy Central, MTV, 10, Nickelodeon, Skydance Animation, Skydance Sports, Skydance Games, Smithsonian Channel, TV Land, Nicktoons, Awesomeness TV, Spelling Television, MTV Entertainment Group, Paramount Plus, and Pluto TV. The new Paramount Skydance company will also operate about 28 local CBS stations across the country, including KCAL in Los Angeles and WCBS in New York, among others. Now let's talk about the capitulation. We have heard Trump threatening to revoke the broadcast licenses of NBC, ABC, and CBS if they don't acquiesce to his wishes. But the truth is he can't do that because they don't have broadcast licenses. The local affiliates do. And the vast majority of affiliates are owned by private companies anyway. Just because the station carries CBS or ABC programming does not mean it's owned by CBS or ABC. I think a lot of people just found that out recently with this Jimmy Kimmel debacle. Disney had put Kimmel back on air after suspending him, but Sinclair and Nexstar decided that he still should be suspended. So they preempted him in the local markets that they control. And that brings us to the next layer of control. The sleeper companies you never realized were controlling the narrative. They are a few large corporations that own local stations across this country. Here they go. They include Tegna, Hertz, Nexstar, Gray Television, Allen Broadcasting, Sinclair Broadcasting, and Scripps. Together, they own about 90% of all the local TV stations across the country, and they contract with the Big Four to carry their programming. If the Trump administration wanted to punish ABC for something Kimmel said, they would literally have to pull the license for each individual media market. Now, can y'all guess how many media markets there are in the United States? 210. Now, can you imagine anybody in the Trump administration being organized enough to file legal proceedings to remove 210 separate broadcast licenses and then having to do that for each network? So what I mean is they would have to file to remove 210 licenses for ABC, 210 for CBS, and so on. It's a crazy threat that he can't possibly deliver on. So the question is, why did these companies capitulate and go against democracy? Well, Disney wants their deal to go through for ESPN to acquire the NFL network. And Sherry Redstone desperately wanted her deal to go through with Skydance so she could offload her family's legacy media business. Now, who knows why Comcast is cowering? I mean, as far as we know, they don't seem to have any type of merger in the works. But, it could be that they're just scared of any potential retaliation coming from the Trump administration. Now, it's now being reported that the new Paramount Global Skydance company is preparing to bid to buy Warner Brothers Discovery, which AT&T previously owned but later divested themselves of. The company is now independent and owns a number of other brands. Those brands include HBO and HBO Max, WB, HGTV, Discovery and Discovery Plus, CNN, TBS, The Food Network, TNT, OWN, Investigation Discovery, TLC, Warner Brothers Pictures, Magnolia Network, The Cooking Channel, Animal Planet, Adult Swim, HLN, Cartoon Network, Travel Channel, True TV, Cinemax, Psy, Bleacher Report, Destination America, Turner Classic Movies, and Boomerang. Now let that sink in. If that merger is allowed to go through, and let's be frank, it will go through as long as they keep Trump happy. You're talking about just two companies controlling the national media in the entire country, Skydance and Comcast. And CBS News will be under the same umbrella as CNN. And they both would be marched completely to the right. On top of this, we just had this TikTok deal pushed through by Trump. It was Trump solving a problem that he created. Remember, he was the first one who ever brought up the idea of banning TikTok. Yes, we know Biden signed it, but it was rammed down his throat in a foreign aid bill that he had to sign in order to get much needed aid to Ukraine. So he wasn't about to veto it just because of TikTok. But now Trump has secured TikTok's takeover by a consortium of investors with strong ties to the Republican Party. So you know they will fundamentally change the platform just like Musk did to Twitter. And it will become another right-wing echo chamber fostering way more misinformation than it does now. So here's the point of all of this. I want you to see who's actually controlling what we watch, what we read, and what sparks the conversations and debates around us. From the news, the movies, the TV shows, social media, it's all a part of shaping the narrative. Right now, Republicans are determined to take over that messaging to push their propaganda because it's been working for them. Just look at the anti-trans messaging that they drove during the election, or now this new nonsense about Tylenol causing autism. Their plan is crystal clear. Start young. I talked about this in one of my first Pragmotiv News videos. It's titled PBS Out, Indoctrination In. They began by defunding PBS, then moved to indoctrinating kids through PragerU. And now they've even taken aim at the entire ecosystem. They're trying to control the mainstream media and social media. This isn't an accident. It's a strategy. So what can we do about it? Well, make sure you research things on your own. Now more than ever, find trusted sources in independent media to help you make sense of things and stay aware of what is going on. Who is saying what and what their motive could be to say what they are saying. Do your own research. Don't rely on what you're fed. Find those trusted independent voices. It's really important. Make it your mission to stay informed. This is about more than just information. It's about standing up for the truth, protecting our future and our democracy. So don't sit back, stay alert, and stay informed, and be ready to push back on misinformation when you see it. Keep it locked here at Pragmotiv because we will always bring you the truth, no matter who it pisses off.